What's up everyone? I am Jamie with threelittlegoats.com. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. If you've been around for a while, welcome back. Glad to see you as always. So today we're not doing one project, we're not doing two projects. We are doing 3 different gift tags that are completely personalized and can be reused every single year as Christmas ornaments. And I love this because they're perfect for friends, family, neighbors. We're doing personalized ornaments like these for all of the kids' teachers this year for their little gift bags, and I just think it gives just a special little personalized touch to gift bags. So without further ado, let's get started. The first tag that we're going to be doing is this adorable wooden one. You can use this as a gift tag, you can do custom tree ornaments, or you can seal it with some polyacrylic and make them into some adorable coasters. For this one, you'll need some wood discs. I got these at my local craft store for really cheap. You're also going to need a vinyl stencil. I did this project on a larger scale with my bee sign that's in my office. I will link to that for a more detailed on how to weed your vinyl for this particular project. You're also going to need a scorch pin as well as a heat gun. So this particular project is pretty self-explanatory. I'm just going to take my vinyl decal stencil that I made using my Silhouette cutting machine, and I'm going to just transfer it onto my wood disc. I am using removable vinyl here, and I'm just going to use my scorch pin to fill everything in completely, making sure there's no empty spaces where I want the wood to actually burn. Now, if you don't have a vinyl cutter, you can find custom vinyl decals online by doing a Google search, or if you have great penmanship or you can draw really well, do it freehand. If I could do it freehand, I totally would, but I cannot draw if my life depended on it, and I have horrible handwriting, so the vinyl decal works best for me. And if you can do it by hand, that's even more personalized and even more better in my opinion. Now, when I'm using my scorch pen, I like to have a paper towel nearby because I like to blot away any excess. I like to just fill in a little bit of a section, then take my paper towel and blot away any excess. That way I can kind of prevent bleeding underneath the vinyl as much as possible. Now, once I have completely colored everything in, I'm just going to take my weeding tool and I'm just going to remove all of that vinyl before I start using my heat tool. I do this just for the simple fact that my vinyl could possibly melt to my wooden disc, and I'm trying to avoid any type of accidents as much as possible. Now, with my heat tool, I'm going to put it on low, and I'm just going to keep it about 2 inches away from my wooden disc, and I'm going to continuously move it over it. I'm not going to hold it in one spot too long. And as you can see, this is in real time. The wood starts to burn wherever that marker was. What I ended up doing was drilling a little hole in the top of it. That way I could hang it from a gift that I was giving to my husband from my kids. And that way we can use it year after year on the Christmas tree as an ornament. Or you could totally seal it with some polyacrylic or some resin and give it as a personalized gift coaster as well. For the next ornament, we're using one of my favorite crafting supplies, Shrinky Dinks. My kids love these because they're so easy. You can just let your kids draw on them and then create your own little ornaments or even jewelry with them. So for this project, you're going to need some Shrinky Dinks as well as a printout of a design that you want to use, or you can freehand it. And you'll also need some permanent markers, a pair of scissors, and then an oven, which obviously is not pictured here. Now, there are a few ways that you can do this, and there's also a couple different types of Shrinky Dinks that you can buy. The first way is to print off a design and then using permanent markers just trace your design onto your Shrinky Dink. Or if you have awesome artistic abilities that I do not have, you can totally freehand them as well. Or if you're like me and don't have the patience, you can totally buy a special type of Shrinky Dink that you can print directly on, and that is what I did for most of my ornaments. I designed my image in Canva, and then I just printed it out onto my Shrinky Dink. This particular brand says that it's for inkjet, but I have a laser printer, or laserjet printer, a toner cartridge printer, whatever you want to call it. I have one of those printers and they work just as well in those. And then after I've done printing it and cutting it out, I'm just going to use a little, well, a very large hole punch. I don't have an individual hole punch. I only have like 4 of these 3 hole punches for some reason. So I'm just going to use this, and I'm going to use this to punch a little hole in the corner of where I want my ornament hole to be so I can string it through with some ribbon. And then all you're going to want to do is put them on a baking sheet with some parchment paper underneath them and bake them according to your directions on your particular Shrinky Dinks. Don't panic if it looks like they're going to curl up onto themselves. Just leave them alone and they will flatten out. And then once that is done, take them out of the oven and let them cool completely, and they are ready to go. And then last but definitely not least are these adorable resin ornaments / gift tags that I made that are super customizable and so easy to make. So for this project, you're going to need a silicone mold in the shape of your choice. You'll also need some epoxy resin. And for the epoxy resin, you're going to need some side quest items such as some mixing sticks, mixing cups, gloves. And if you're not working in a well-ventilated area, you're going to want to use a respirator as well. And then you also need your vinyl decals of your choice and a heat gun or a little torch to pop the bubbles in the resin. And then optionally, if you want to add any glitter or colorants, you can do that as well for this project. Now I will warn you, this is a multi-day project because we are working with resin and we have to wait for it to cure. Now the first thing I'm going to do is just simply mix up enough resin to cover the bottom of all the molds that I will be using. And my particular resin is a 1:1 ratio, which is really easy to measure out. And I like this brand because it has a 40-minute working time. So you've got plenty of time to work with it. But if you're not going to use the same brand that I'm using, I will link it down below. Be sure to follow the instructions on mixing your resin, and it should tell you how much working time you have as well. And then for this first base layer, I'm actually going to be adding in some colorant and glitter. I'm going to be using some white alcohol ink as well as some iridescent white glitter that I have. That way that first layer is nice and opaque and my vinyl decal will be easier seen on it instead of just having a clear background. You can of course do any color you want. You can do glitter, no glitter, or you can just leave it clear. It is completely up to you. Now that everything has been completely mixed up and is nice and combined, I'm just going to pour enough resin into the bottom of my molds to cover the bottom of them. I'm probably doing maybe 1/4 inch worth of resin, and because my office is kind of cold, my resin's not moving like I want it to, but once I hit it with that heat gun to start popping all of the bubbles, it will loosen it up and it'll spread nice and evenly. And because this epoxy resin is self-leveling, I can just leave it overnight to cure and don't have to worry about it being completely uneven. Alright, so it is now the next day and my resin is nice and cured, and now I'm just going to use some transfer tape to stick my vinyl decals down into the resin. Now you can take them out of the mold and put your vinyl decal down onto it and then put it back in the mold for the next layer, but I found that if I cut my transfer tape pretty close to my actual decal, I could get it on there without having to remove it, which was perfectly fine. Either way works, whatever you find the easiest for you. And then after my decals were stuck down nice and good, I just mixed up a little bit more resin and I put just a little bit of glitter in there just to give it a little bit of sparkle, and I'm going to just pour that over the rest of the decal to make sure that it's never going to go anywhere. You don't have to put a second coat of resin on if you don't want to, but this is going to ensure that your vinyl decal never peels up. And then because it is freezing in my office, my resin was kind of just sitting in the middle of where I put it in the mold. So I'm just going to hit it with the heat gun just to loosen it up a little bit, and it's also going to pop some of the air bubbles that are trapped in it. I'm just going to use my little popsicle stick to kind of coax it over everything, and then because it is self-leveling, it'll eventually level out once I hit it with the heat gun again to pop all the rest of the air bubbles. And then after that, I'm just gonna let it sit again for another 24 hours until it has completely hardened. After another 24 hours, they are nice and hard, and I can pop them out of the mold, and they are just so glittery and so cute. Now, if you do have a little bit of a ridge on the top of them, you can just take a little bit of sandpaper and sand it down just to make sure it's not sharp. Mine weren't too bad, so I wasn't really too concerned with them. Lastly, to turn them into an ornament that we can hang on the tree after they've been used as a gift tag, I just took my drill with a small drill bit and I drilled a hole right in the top. That way I could string some ribbon through it. So that is what I've got for you guys today. If you like this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. It really helps. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. What are you waiting for? We put out new videos every single week, sometimes twice a week if we're feeling spunky. And if you're here for the soap videos, don't worry. I will have another soap making video up on Saturday as well, so be sure to subscribe for those. And let me know down in the comments what your favorite ornament was that we made today. I absolutely love making resin ornaments. I just love working with resin, but I would have to say Shrinky Dinks will always have a spot in my heart because they're so easy to make that even my kids can do it on their own with very little help from me. So let me know what your favorite was down in the comments, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!